What's happening, Hardscapers? Today we're going to talk about how much money we made on a small step install project. Let's get into this. We made $4,000 on this small step install. It took less than 8 hours to complete, and I'm going to walk you through how exactly we got to this number, how we estimated it, and how much money we actually made throughout this video. So a potential client reached out at the beginning of this season. They had these 2 steps that were put together and they were falling apart. Later on in the season, they reached out again and said, Mike, let's go forward with this. Our steps are completely falling apart. It is now a safety hazard. Let's get it on the schedule as soon as we can. And with these small projects, we can get out there fairly quickly. So we scheduled it in, pour out those steps, re-prepared the base, cut the concrete, put in a small landing area to fill in the distance from the existing driveway to the steps, and then installed the steps in place. And we walked through that step install from start to finish in the previous video on the channel if you want to check that out. Link will be in the description as well. To get into the actual estimating of this project, we need to factor in how much time it's going to take me, the material cost, as well as the fixed costs in our business. That's the overhead expenses. That's making sure that we've got a truck that's running, the maintenance, the fuel, all of our equipment, and so much more that goes into those overhead costs. And then on top of all that, we want to factor in a profit percentage, and that's for us in our business. That is not for my salary, my hourly wage, whatever that might be. That is for the actual business, so we can ensure that the business continues to grow for us. On top of that, we need to factor in tax, and that's for the government, of course. But this is how we factor in how we're going to make $4,000 on this project in less than 8 hours worth of work here. So with all that said, you probably caught already me saying that we made $4,000 on this project, but no, that is actually the total revenue. And that is the cost of the entire project to the client. But as you can see, we need to factor out of that our material cost, our labor cost, our overhead expenses, and then the profit that goes into our business for our business. So if online you hear people say that they made X amount of dollars, it's always the revenue cost, unless they explicitly tell you otherwise, because they always want to go with that higher number to say we made this amount, when in reality it's a much lower number than that. So let me walk you through in our software how I actually went about pricing this, from the labor to the materials, and then factoring our profit on top of that. Okay, we're going to start this project and we're going to go through and add an individual employee. We're going to start estimating the time amount for this project. So we'll choose steps, and then we'll choose steps as our production rate. We've only got 3 things here. We've got excavation, base preparation, laying. This is going to be a hand dig, and this is about 10 square feet that we're going to be digging out for these steps. We've got the base preparation, dense graded base, once again 10 square feet of this, and the laying, and this is going to be 2 steps that we're going to be installing here. And I'm going to click save there. We do have an efficiency factor of 81.25. That comes in with our half an hour to the job site, half an hour to clean up and drive back, and my half an hour lunch. So it does mark this up a little bit here to make up for that lost time. Now, one thing we do need to consider here, cutting of our concrete. Now, I want to factor that in somehow with this, as well as I want to factor in that little stretch of some natural stone slabs that we're going to put down just to cover that distance between the driveway to the steps. And I don't want to create a whole nother work area, so I'm just going to factor those extra hours. I'm going to say it's going to take me 1 hour to cut that concrete and an extra hour to prepare the base and lay. I think it's like 8 square feet. So I'm going to give 2 more hours here. So I'm going to put this up to 30 square feet. Give me 2 extra hours, update that, and now we're up to 5.94 hours for this project. I'm going to go to my cost of sale, and I'll choose my work area and my group, and these are all my materials that I'm going to need. So I'm going to be using a gravel for this, and rental, we're going to need a mini X to be able to place these with a suction. And then our delivery cost is going to be an added amount there, and I'll click save here. And now we've got our total cost of sale at $16.62. Now if I go to our estimate, our labor burden tax rate in there, and then I need to add in our profit percentage. I'm going to put 25%. That brings me to $4,000.46. And our proposal, if I add a work area proposal, I have this already with our client information. As you can see, we've got our scope of work here. Exactly how we build our steps. That's because we chose our steps at the production rate level. So this automatically shows up here, which is great. Our materials, estimated amounts in terms of quantities, our total dollar amount with our total there. We've got our contract that shows up at the bottom here. I can delete anything and click save here. Now, if you missed that, the software actually calculates our overhead expenses for us in our business. And that's based on our budget. We create a budget at the beginning of every season that incorporates all the equipment, the costs for that equipment, the fuel, maintenance, licensing, everything involved with that, as well as our business expenses. That's the yard, rental space, licensing, marketing, all the expenses that we accumulate in our business needs to be paid for. So that is our overhead expenses, the fixed costs in our business, and we need to build that out on every single project as we continue our season. And the simple formula to calculate overhead expenses is just to tally up all that dollar amount in every single season. Equipment gets a little bit more complicated, so maybe we'll make a video about that in the future. Comment below if you want to see that video. But essentially, you accumulate all of those costs that you incur in your business, not the material costs, not the labor costs, all those fixed costs in your business in the season, get a whole dollar amount, and then calculate the amount of hours that you have in a season to recoup that dollar amount. So that is your total of weeks per season, days per week, and hours per day. Multiply those together, you get your hours per season, and then you just divide your overhead expenses by those hours, and that's how many dollars you need to make up over each 1 hour that you work. But then, as you can see, with our estimate versus our actual hours worked in the field, we were off. We went a little bit over. Now, I blame that a little bit on me having to set up the camera, because this is a project that I wanted to get on film, and that adds a little bit of time, as well as some mistakes here and there. So let me walk you through the job costing of this, because we want to make sure we compare those actual amounts versus our estimated amounts, see where we went right, see where we went wrong, and improve on in the future. Okay, let's run through these numbers and compare them, estimated versus actual. We've got budgeted $463 for labor. That's budgeted about 5 hours. It took us 8 hours, cost us $667. Then we get to overhead. It was budgeted at $559. It took $911. So there's a difference right there. Overhead is very much tied to labor, the amount of hours that you spend on that project, as we discussed with that formula. And then we get to cost of goods sold. We budgeted $1662 and it cost us $1287. And the reason it was so low and we made a little bit more, but it took us a little bit more time, was our forklift install on this project. With that delivery, we were able to get the delivery driver to set those steps in place, as we talked about in the previous video. So I didn't have to actually rent a piece of equipment, and that saved us a little bit of money. And with all that being said, I told you our revenue was $4,000. It was actually $3,580 plus tax on this project. And our actual costs total up to $2,865, with our net revenue being 19.97%. And if you saw when we're estimating this project, we're hoping for a 25% profit range. And this is where we compare our numbers, see where we went right, see where we went wrong, and where we can improve our systems in our business to make up that extra 5% that we missed out on this project. Obviously, we already know we went 3 hours over on this project, but we saved a little bit more with those costs of goods and not having to rent a piece of equipment here, and that's our job costing. And that is it. That is how we made $4,000, but not really, but $4,000 on this step install. If you're a homeowner, hopefully this opens your eyes to how much we need to charge as a landscaping business to ensure we give you the best product possible. It is expensive to run and operate a landscaping business, and we do need to make sure that we stay in business so we can continue to help service you in the future and make sure that we can hold up our end of the bargain with our warranties. And if you're a hardscape business owner, hopefully this helps you price your future projects. And if you want any help with that. If you want access to our headquarters software, leave a comment in the comment section below. I'll happily help you with that, show you around it, give you a demo, as well as link will be in the description below for that. That is incorporated into our members only platform. So you'll have access to our Hardscape installation courses, our budgeting courses, estimating courses, and so much more on top of that. Like this video if you found it helpful for whatever reason. Subscribe to this YouTube channel for more hardscaping content like this. Thank you so much for watching.